Ayurveda is India's traditional system of healing and health, perhaps humankind's most ancient medical system. It has been practiced for thousands of years in India. Ayurveda explores life in all its layers and pays more attention to an organism's energies and their functions than to the structures which contain them. It concerns itself less with quantity of life than with life's quality, and with those qualities in our environments and ourselves that promote an individual's state of health or ill health on every level of existence. According to Ayurveda, health is harmony of body, mind, and spirit. I'm Dr. Deborah Kern, and I'm bringing you this information because it has helped me so much in not only in my professional life as a health educator, a health scientist, but in my personal life as a mom, a woman, a wife, a sister, a daughter. It's given me a way to view health and well-being that is preventive. And that's because Ayurveda focuses on prevention. According to Ayurveda, disease occurs when the body is unbalanced, when the mind is distressed, or when the spirit is oppressed. It can occur with any of those triads of mind, body, and spirit. When I was getting my PhD in the early 1990s, I had only been trained in Western medicine up until then, from nursing school in the 70s, and I worked in preventive medicine in the 80s, and I was really looking for more ways to understand how we could do better in healthcare, in prevention, helping people prevent diseases. And when I quote, discovered Ayurveda in the library one day, I was shocked to realize that thousands, 5, 6, 10,000 years ago in India, there was already a very effective preventive medicine system. And so I began studying. I had the great pleasure and honor and blessing of studying with Drs. Deepak Chopra and Dr. John Douillard. They would come to Dallas and teach weekends at a time. I want to give honor to the teachers I have studied with, because Ayurveda it's not something you can learn just by reading. You need people to hands-on and give you experiences. So Dr. Deepak Chopra, Dr. John Douillard, I started studying with. I then met a physician in Dallas, a Western-trained physician who also practiced Ayurveda, and I apprenticed with him for many years, Dr. Ed Tiska, where when we would see clients, the clients would take a 250-question questionnaire, and then we would do pulse diagnosis to determine what the imbalances were, and then offer advice, like I will give you some of that in this presentation today. Then I had the great blessing to go 2 months and study with a master teacher in India, Uma Inder, and came back and studied with Dr. Vasant Lad at the Ayurveda Institute, and have read the amazing works of Dr. David Frowley and Dr. Robert Svoboda. I say all of this because I want you to understand that what I'm presenting today in this presentation is very limited. It is not the depth and breadth and great wisdom of all of Ayurveda. I just want to give you a synopsis and some basic practical ways that you could demystify Ayurveda and use it in your life. That's my hope, that from just this one presentation you'll have an idea of what might be out of balance in your own life, in your own body, and how you might begin to look at bringing it back into balance. So with that, let's talk about this balance and imbalance. What are we talking about here? Well, according to Ayurveda, there are 5 elements in the universe, and just as our bodies are made up of trillions of independent cells, we're all little cells in the universal organ. Like our cells, each of us humans has an individual existence, but none of us is, quote, free enough to live independently of the whole. In fact, everything which exists in the external universe has its counterpart in a living being's own personal internal universe. In other words, as without, so within. Every cosmic force is represented in altered form in us. So according to Ayurveda, the flow of nutrients into and wastes out of body cells also characterizes the continuous flow of nutrients and waste into and out of plants, animals, humans. There is therefore no inherent difference between, say, cooking your food in a pot on the stove and cooking your food in the pot of your stomach on the internal digestive fire. Both use heat to prepare the food for easier assimilation. Flames are used on the external stove and acid and enzymes on the inside, but the principle of cooking is identical to both. So you get the idea that in Ayurveda, what we're going to be doing is using more metaphor and seeing the similarities between the great cosmic energies and internal energies in our bodies. And that's because the originators, the people who first understood Ayurveda, they didn't have microscopes to look at DNA and cellular structure. They used their inner eye. They didn't look outside with their eyes. They actually closed their eyes, went into deep meditation, and received this information. Now, I know that sounds maybe strange to some of you because we've just grown up in a culture that looks outside of ourselves for evidence and indications. In other words, we even think if you can't see it, we don't believe it. Well, there were seers called rishis in India who could see, but with their eyes closed. And these rishis came up with this theory that Ayurveda is based on, the theory of the 5 great elements, which are also known as the 5 great states of material existence. And they used the elements of the universe to explain what's happening in our bodies. I think you'll see that it's actually quite accurate, even though it's quite different from our system. So the 5 elements are, we need to understand them, and I'm going to ask you to shift from your usual left brain way of interpreting and understanding using just logic and linear progression and putting things in boxes. Move to the right brain so that you can see metaphor and qualities. We're going to move with that part of our understanding. So according to Ayurveda, there are 5 great elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Earth is the solid state of matter. Water, liquid state. Fire, the power that can convert a substance from solid to liquid to gas, or vice versa, depending on how hot the fire is. Air, which is the gaseous state of matter. And space, which is the field from which everything is manifested and into which everything returns. According to Ayurveda, these 5 elements condense to 3 doshas. And so dosha, we're going to loosely translate as constitution, a constitution. And these constitutions are Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Now let's just think about what we do in Western understanding. We also have 3 main constitutions in Western understanding. You may remember from somewhere, maybe 5th or 7th grade science class, human development maybe, you might have learned that when a human body is in its healthy state, there are 3 types, body types, and when they're healthy, they have certain different qualities. And the 3 types, according to Western understanding, is ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. You remember that? Well, ectomorph would be the person who is thinner, smaller body structure, body frame, smaller bones, less mass on their bones. Mesomorph would be more medium size, medium bone structure, medium muscles. And endomorph would be the larger, more fleshy, heavier person. According to our understanding in the West, when a person is healthy, they will be one of those 3 states. But then we don't really do anything with that information. In fact, we pretty much ignore it. And in the name of health, we try to make everybody be a thin mesomorph. So the poor ectomorphs are out there in the gyms trying to pump up more muscles, trying to look like a mesomorph. Meanwhile, they're hurting their joints because they weren't meant to have that much muscle. And meanwhile, the endomorphs are on diets from the time they're 5, trying to get thinner to look like a mesomorph, when in fact, they're actually healthier when they're at the little bit larger state. I've really when I discovered Ayurveda and realized that actually we're meant to be different sizes, I just couldn't believe I hadn't thought of that before, because of course we're all unique and not everyone is meant to be the same size. But in the name of health, we've sort of forgotten that in the West. And so one of the first most healing experiences I had with Ayurveda was understanding the differences in body types and how we need to honor that to be in our true healthy state. Well, so we do see that in the West. We also have in the West personality typing, like Myers-Briggs would say ENFP. We characterize people by the way their mental, emotional states are. But typical of the West, we separate things. We have the body typing and we have the mind typing. Well, Ayurveda understood that there is no separation between mind and body. So when we are looking at these doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, what you'll realize is that there is no separation, that you'll see mind and body intertwined. And you'll also see that unlike the West, where in the West we categorize people and put them in a box, even the Myers-Briggs, which I do love that system. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it does put people in a box, and it says all ENFPs, this is what you're like, as if they're all the same. In Ayurveda, it's a moving scale. No two people are exactly alike. It's up to each one of us to determine our unique nature. And at any given moment, we are in a state of balance or imbalance, which changes everything. So you become like your own research scientist. So we're going to begin this journey of learning how to see ourselves through the Ayurveda eyes by looking at what are these doshas, what are these constitutions like? And I'll describe them first. What is it like when Vata or Pitta or Kapha are in balance? What is it like when they're in balance? And what you'll recognize is that you have some Vata, some Pitta, and some Kapha. We all do. But our recipes are different. Not only are our recipes different, like how much of each of these doshas we have operating, and they're actually like forces in our body, but the other thing that's very unique is how they manifest. For instance, the Vata might manifest in the size of your eyes, and the Pitta might manifest in the quality of your skin. Or in someone else, the Vata might manifest in the way their mind moves, and the Pitta manifests in their appetite. So even though you could take a questionnaire, which I know you will, there are many questionnaires available. You can look on my ebook that's free and take mine, or you can go to Ayurveda.com, take a great one. You can go to Deepak Chopra's website, take a great questionnaire. Let's say we all take the same questionnaire. And at the end of the questionnaire, it says Vata 10, Pitta 20, Kapha 8. And let's say we have the same numbers at the end of the questionnaire. Does that mean we are exactly the same person? No. All it means is that we have those forces present in our bodies in those amounts, equal amounts. But how Vata shows up is going to be different in my body than your body. In my body, in reality, Vata shows up in my personality, the way I talk, my rate of speech. In someone else's body, it may show up in their muscle size. They might be a small person. I'm a large person. Vata usually looks small if it's in the body. It doesn't show up in my body. It shows up in my rate of speech and my enthusiasm. You see? So we're all different. No one is the same, even if our numbers are the same on a questionnaire. So let's just start out. Let's get going here. So Vata, you may have taken a questionnaire. You'll see you have some Vata. Everybody does, but the amounts are different in everyone. But what does Vata look like when it manifests in your body, in your mind, in your emotions? Well, Vata is made of air and space. So what is air and space like? Remember, we're going to move into our right brains and think metaphor. What is this like? Well, air is light, right? It's dry. Space is very expansive. And air is what moves the weather. It's moving all the time, moving weather patterns. So this is what it does for us or in us. It is quick, it is light, dry, subtle, and kind of rough. So when there is Vata force in our system. Someone who has a lot of Vata, we might say about them, they're very quick. Their mind is quick if it manifests in the mind. If it manifests in the body, they're the kind of person who can't sit still. They're always tapping their pencil and moving their foot. If Vata manifests in their physical body, they will be light, like the ectomorph in our system. Lighter bone structure, lighter muscles, less fat on their body in a healthy state. Their skin tends to be dry, more dry than the others because air is dry. Subtle means they're very sensitive. It gives them, they have a subtle nature. They're aware of subtleties. And rough also would be skin, and sometimes internal organs might get a little bit dry and rough. So this is Vata in balance. That's what it's, the gift of Vata. It's what it gives our bodies. Because Vata is always moving and it's quick, it gives us the ability to be imaginative and creative. The mind is moving and can think outside of the box. Vata gives the gift of being exhilarated. Someone with a lot of Vata gets excited easily. And they're spontaneous and changeable by nature. Their nature is to be spontaneous, just like I said, the air is what moves the weather. So to a person with a lot of Vata, if you said to them, hey, let's go to the movies and let's go see this drama, and on the way to the movies you say, oh no, let's see a comedy, they're fine with that. Now, not everybody has a lot of Vata. They wouldn't be so spontaneous and changeable. You know who those people are. Maybe it's you. So Vata is what gives you the nature to be spontaneous and changeable. You'll notice also a person with a lot of Vata. If I am working with someone like that, I might say, when do you usually eat breakfast or lunch? And they might say, oh, well, I don't know. I don't think I ate it today, but yesterday I think I did. Well, I don't know. Some days I'm hungry, some days I'm not. That is the characteristic Vata, changeable, spontaneous. Because of their subtle nature, they're very sensitive. So the gift of Vata is to be sensitive. It's interesting, in our culture, being sensitive is often a criticism. Oh, you're so sensitive. It's actually a very big gift to be sensitive. Vata is quick. So you will notice the energy, the way a person runs energy who has a lot of Vata in their nature is quick. Sort of like puppies. You know how puppies are? They're like play, 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 and then they sleep. Play, 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 sleep. So a person with a lot of Vata, left to their own devices, without any external imposition of schedule, they would do this. They would get up in the morning, eat a little bit, do a little bit, rest a little bit. Eat a little bit, do a little bit, rest a little bit. Their energy goes in spurts. It's quick. It's a little bit explosive. So they do tire easily, but they go fast. So they'll go fast, do a lot, and they need to rest. Interestingly, our culture doesn't honor that style of energy very well. It expects us to get up in the morning, eat something, and go for a long time, and maybe even skip a meal and keep going and keep pushing. And that automatically pushes Vata out of balance. That is a recipe for out of balance for Vata. So in order to stay healthy and well, Vata needs to honor the way their energy moves. And they need to do a little bit, eat a little bit, rest a little bit. Do a little bit, eat a little bit, rest a little bit. They are the people for whom 5 to 6 small meals a day is perfect. That's how their digestion works, and that's how their energy works. Vata, because it's air up high in the air, it tends to be cold. So someone with a lot of Vata, even when they're healthy and well, they will be colder than everyone else. So I hope you see what this is looking like. Not everyone is like this, but some of you listening have a lot of Vata in your nature, and you notice you have some of these gifts. So Pitta. Pitta is fire and water. So think about just what that's like. What happens when you put water with fire? It boils up, it gets hot and boils and bubbles. So the qualities of fire are sharp, it gives a sharpness, they're hot, and drive. So the sharp intellect is a fiery mind. It's very good at, it's sharp is what we would call it. You know what that looks like. It's very different from Vata, right? Quick. A quick mind is someone who learns things quickly, forgets things quickly. That's a Vata mind. Pitta mind is sharp. The details. Give me the bottom line. Sharp. They are hot. Physically, they tend to be hot. Emotionally, they tend to be hot because of the fire. and driven, because think how fire makes the water boil. The water then turns to steam, and steam is what drives an engine. So the gift of Pitta is the gift of drive. It's what gets us all going in the mornings, really. I mean, we wake up with Vata, exhilaration, that says, oh, the day has started, but Pitta is the thing that drives us to get things done. So some of you have a good bit of Pitta. You're the ones who have projects, lots of projects going on, and you're getting them done. The drive to get them done. That's the gift of Pitta. Because of the sharp intellect, Pitta has the gift of being articulate. People who choose words carefully. I don't have a lot of Pitta, and you'll notice that I wander. That's a Vata quality. I don't have a lot of Pitta, but I'll do my best to keep you engaged. Pitta has the gift of being articulate. They have a good sense of judgment, good critical thinking skills by nature. This is just their nature. They are decisive and organized and efficient. This is the gift of Pitta. So for instance, someone with a lot of Pitta, let's say they go on vacation and they bring their suitcase into the hotel room, and the first thing they do is they sort of scope out the place. They move furniture to be an appropriate spot. That's their sense of judgment and critical thinking and organization. Then they unpack their suitcase and put their long sleeve shirts next to their short sleeve shirts, buttons turned a certain way, everything unpacked, and then they look at the little flyer by the bedside that says, okay, Disney World opens at 10 a.m. and they instantly in their mind naturally make a PERT flow chart to say, okay, if Disney World opens at 10, then we need to be down on the shuttle by 9. And in order to be in the shuttle by 9, we need to be into breakfast by 8. So we need to get up at 7. See, their brain just works like that. Very organized, efficient, decisive, orderly. It's a gift, such a gift of Pitta. Pitta in the physical body is more medium build, medium. So that would be mesomorph. So if you take a questionnaire and you may see you have high Pitta numbers, it may show up in your mind, sharp. It may show up in your judgment, critical thinking, or it may show up in your physical body, medium size, medium memory, not so quick like Vata, where they learn quick and forget quickly, more medium energy as well, more moderate sustainability. You'll also see fire in the coloring of people's skin. So their faces will have more freckles, or they'll be the kind of person who gets red when they exercise or exert themselves. Or, according to Ayurveda, the red will show up in their hair. Their hair may be red, or if there's too much, quite a bit of Pitta, they will be early balding or early gray. And the story behind that is that fire is so hot that it either turns the hair red or it burns the color right out of their hair, turns it gray, or it burns it off of their head. So a good example I think of, you can see people with strong competitive athletes with early balding. Those are Pitta people. So this is the gift of Pitta. When it's in balance, you'll see these qualities. And then there's Kapha. Kapha in balance. So Kapha is earth and water. Earth and water. So think about what that's like, earth and water. It's like what happens when you put earth and water together? It makes mud, right? So mud. So it is slower. Earth is slower, and it makes the mind wise. So the story behind earth and water and wisdom is this. An earth quality of mental capacity is that people with a lot of earth, if it shows up as their mental realm, they learn the way the earth soaks up the rain. It takes time. So they are slower. In our educational system, we don't honor that really at all. We don't honor someone who learns slowly, do we? We want them to be able to take a pop quiz on Friday and then take a test on this material the next week. But someone with a lot of earth hasn't soaked it up yet. They need the time for that information to soak into their bodies. But once they have it, they embody it. It's in them. That is what wisdom is. Wisdom is not just information and knowledge. It's taking the information in and embodying it so you could turn it on any side and understand it and know it in your depths. So one thing that I really notice in our culture, and I love working with teachers to see this in their students, is that we really are wiping out our wisdom keepers by not honoring this style of learning. We have We have an overabundance of information and an underabundance of people who know what to really do with the information. Well, those would be the Kapha people that sit into it, our wisdom keepers. So if you have that learning style, I hope that you take in this information and understand the great gift you have to offer the world, to be someone who can soak the information in. We tend to be more kinesthetic, a Kapha learner, and then we can then teach it to anyone because we embody it. So Kapha gives the gift of wisdom. It is slower, so once it's in there, we have a very long memory, a Kapha person. You'll see the gift of strong, heavy, soft, firm. What is that? That's the endomorph in the Western system. So if Kapha shows up in your physical body, you will have natural strength. Your bones and muscles will be heavier, a little softer. So the muscle tone itself may be softer, but you're still strong and firm. So it's a soft, firm, heavy, strong body frame is the gift of Kapha. The emotional realm, the gift of Kapha is to be compassionate and forgiving and calm and patient and loyal and steady. So these are all gifts of Kapha in balance. And everyone has some of this. Everyone is somewhat compassionate, somewhat forgiving, somewhat loyal. Some people just have a lot of it. That is just their nature. And in terms of energy, how Kapha runs energy is they store energy. So to give you the comparison, I would say a Vata energy is more like some fancy race car, like a Lamborghini or a Maserati. They're like, run, and then in the pit stop have to get some repair, and then run fast and stop and do a little repair. That's how they run their energy, fast and rest, fast and rest. And Pitta energy is more like a medium-sized sedan, maybe like a police vehicle. It can get up and go pretty fast and medium size, but not super fast. And then Kapha would be more like a diesel Suburban. It gets pretty good mileage, but it can carry a big load, but it can't go fast. It'll chug up and down and go and carry and go for a long time, not need to stop and get fixed, but slow. And so the energy is stored. It stores the energy. So that's how energy works, the gifts of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Now the interesting thing happens when we get stressed. The ideal, according to Ayurveda, is for us to maintain balance, but no one maintains balance, even in a perfect world. There's variations. So what our job is to notice when things are out of balance, when there's an accumulation of too much, basically too much of a good thing. Because you see, Vata, Pitta, Kapha have gifts. However, when they get deranged or vitiated or out of balance or accumulate, it causes problems. We typically accumulate or go out of balance in the area we already have a lot of. There is a rule of thumb in Ayurveda, which is like attracts like. So when you look at your questionnaires, the numbers at your questionnaire, or when you just reflect on what we've just talked about, you have a sense in yourself what your nature is, probably. However, just a word of caution, many of us have been out of balance for so long that we think our out of balance self is our nature, and it's not. And it sometimes takes a practitioner to help you discover what is your baseline balance. But hopefully this discussion will help, because let's look at what is it like when Vata is out of balance. Too much Vata, too much of a good thing. Think metaphor. So too much air, too much movement, too much lightness, too much dryness. What happens with too much of that movement and air is that mind that was quick becomes a spinning mind. So instead of being quick, which is a great thing, now your mind is spinning, sort of out of control. And when the mind is spinning, it gets forgetful. So you find yourself running around the house. You can't find your keys. You can't remember what you're doing. The mind, it gets very forgetful. And if this stays going for a while, then we have insomnia. The mind is going, but the body is tired. You can't stop the mind. According to Ayurveda, when you notice these subtle symptoms, that's the time to bring yourself back into balance. And I will talk about what to do later. But for now, let me just say, you want to notice things at the subtle level. Dis-ease starts at the very subtle levels first, and then it moves into the more dense levels, into our physical body. So ideally, we'll notice about ourselves, "Ooh, wow, my mind is spinning. I need to balance Vata." We even can see that if it keeps going longer, then we actually have adopted a way of being, and we become someone who is worried, anxious, and fearful. So if you don't catch it soon, then you start becoming someone who is generally, chronically worried, anxious, and fearful. Worry, anxiety, and fear are signs that Vata is out of balance. It's not how we were born. We weren't born with the gift of worry, anxiety, and fear. We were born with the gift of a quick mind, spontaneous and changeable personality, exhilaration. Those are gifts. But our gift has gone out of balance. We've accumulated too much of a good thing. So now we find ourselves waking up in the morning, first thing, and right away, our mind is spinning and we feel worried about the day and anxious about how we're going to get things done and fearful. That's your sign. We even have words in English that describe Vata as out of balance. We say, I feel so spacey, or I'm lightheaded, or I'm a space cadet. There you go. That is not your gift. That is your out of balance nature. And I would really have you pay attention to the phrase, I am. I am is a very powerful, potent phrase. So you are not spacey. I wouldn't even say, I am so anxious. I am such an anxious person. No, you're not. You can say, I am a spontaneous, quick-minded, creative, imaginative person, and Vata is out of balance. So I need to bring Vata back into balance. This is a much more compassionate and helpful way of seeing yourself. So when you recognize what's out of balance, you know you just need to bring it back into balance. Now, if you cannot bring yourself back into balance while things are subtle, these are still subtle, worry, anxiety, fear, the sensations of spacey, lightheaded, then it will become physical. And in Vata, out of balance, we'll find constipation or gas, too much air, too dry, constipation, too much air, gas, and you'll feel chills and shakiness in the body. There are others, but these are the ones that I see most common, people will recognize in their physical body. So these are indications that Vata is out of balance. So how about Pitta? Well, remember, Pitta is fire and water, and the gift is a sharp mind, hot, driven. That's the gift, but too much of a good thing, right? So too much sharpness, too much heat, too much drive. What does it look like? Well, sharp mind becomes a sharp tongue. And the good sense of judgment and good critical thinking becomes judgmental and critical. And I notice most often it becomes self-judgmental, self-critical first, and then it goes outward to people outside. So sometimes you don't even notice it on the outside, but that sharpness and judgment and criticism is going inward, and it causes damage. This is Pitta out of balance. Now, if this goes on for a while, then you're not like the Vata people. They wake up, they're all worried and anxious and fearful. No. You wake up and you're just frustrated. You are ticked off. You wake up, I can't believe I went to bed so late. It ticks me off. And then you get out of bed and you see your spouse or your kids have left socks on the floor and you're mad about that. And you're just irritated. That is a sign of Pitta out of balance. It's not your gift that you were born to give the world. This is a sign Pitta is out of balance. So then what happens is your ability to be organized and efficient becomes perfectionistic. You can't let something go until it's just a certain way. And the drive gets stuck on overdrive. You become an overachiever. This is Pitta out of balance. These aren't your gifts. This is the out of balance. And you become overly competitive. So anytime any of you notice any of these qualities, you'll notice Pitta is out of balance. That fire, Inside the body will become indigestion, heartburn, too much fire. It'll show up as inflammation in the skin, acne or breakouts in the skin, intestinal burning kinds of things, Crohn's disease, fire, out of balance. Any itis, because itis is inflammation. So anything with an itis at the end is pitta, out of balance. Inflammation, too much fire. All of these show that pitta is out of balance. All right, kapha. What happens when kapha is out of balance? Well, I think you can probably figure it out by now. So let's just see. Kapha is earth and water, which becomes mud, and it's solid and steady and loyal and heavy. These are gifts. We need some of this. We need some of it, but too much of it becomes too much of it. And if you were to see, let's take three different people, let's say 3 different people in an office, say, and there's this big stress that happens in the company. They've made a freeze in hiring any new employees, and now all of you are going to have to do more work, and there's potential that the company may go bankrupt, and so big stresses are happening. So the people with Vata nature all of a sudden get pushed out of balance, Vata, and they're running around spinning in circles, coming up with 5 million different ideas what they're going to do, and what if they lose their job, and then they're going to lose their house, and then they can't send Johnny to college, and they're worrying and spinning and getting spacier and spacier. The Pitta people are slamming their computers shut, peeling out of the parking lot, pissed off at management, those idiots in management. That's how they feel. Now, how about the Kapha? What's that? What are they doing? Well, basically, you probably can't even find them. They're probably somewhere in the break room, sound asleep, and they have an empty bag of M&Ms in one hand and chocolate just drooling out of their mouth. Because kapha out of balance will slow down so much. They get so stressed that they get so heavy they can't move. So here's what it looks like. They get dull. They can't think of anything. They're just dull, heavy, and lethargic. So when you feel dullness, cloudiness, heaviness, lethargy, this is kapha building and building. Then it becomes depression. It becomes more embedded. So they don't get worried. Under big stress, it's not worry and anxiety, and it's not anger and frustration, it's depression. It's depression that happens. Then they're just stuck. They can't even think of a way out of it. While the Vata person is spinning in circles with 5 million ideas of what to do, they have no ideas of what to do. They're just stuck. And you'll notice in their physical body, kapha out of balance will immediately start holding on to fluids and fat. I have a dominant kapha body, and I can tell you that within an hour of a big stress, I can't get my rings off. The body, everything starts to pull in, like the earth soaking up the rain too much. It just soaks up. Of course, the fat also has to do with the fact that kapha will start craving the thing that makes it worse, which is sweet, heavy dairy foods and wheat. They will crave those foods, and it'll pull more fat and fluids on. And because of the lethargy, they're not moving. So they have sort of the double whammy of craving the thing that'll make it worse and holding on. You'll also see them holding on to things in their environment. So a person with kapha out of balance has stuff everywhere, piling up. They can't figure out what to do with it. So this is a very typical thing that you'll see with kapha. So I hope you see right now that there's the gift of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and then there's the accumulation of too much, or the derangement is one word they use in Ayurveda. The derangement becomes a challenge. And if that derangement or accumulation isn't dealt with while it's in the subtle level, it becomes physical. It'll become physical. So kapha out of balance will have anything of too muchness, buildup of mucus, and arthritis that's osteoarthritis, too much bone, too muchness. And this is an oversimplification, but generally this is it. A lot of wet, anything that's wet and heavy and mucousy and a buildup of something is going to be related to kapha. So how do you know if you're in balance or out of balance? Well, you can see a practitioner, of course, and that's a great thing. If you have someone in your area that you can see, because they can take pulse diagnosis and they'll help you know. But I've learned that really you can tell a lot just yourself. And these questions that I'm going to show you, you can ask yourself these questions. These are not highly scientific. I can tell you as a research scientist, they are not valid. They are not reliable according to scientific measurement methods. But you know what? I use them for myself and they help me a lot. So I thought I'd share them with you. Ask yourself, do I eat when I'm hungry and stop when I'm full? Do I have plenty of energy for the day? Do I sleep well at night? Are my relationships good? Is my elimination good? In other words, what comes in must go out. That's whatever is not used, but you don't want it to come out too much too fast, and you don't want it to be backed up. So you've got to really look at elimination as a big key to balance or not balance. And am I generally peaceful and joyous? Not Pollyanna like, oh, everything is perfect, but generally when you wake up, are you feeling peaceful and joyous? Are you moving through your day feeling peaceful and joyous? If you answer no to any of these, something's out of balance, because the truth is your birthright, your nature is to be peaceful and joyous, to have good relationships, to have plenty of energy for your day, to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, and you sleep well, and elimination to be perfect. That's your nature. Something's out of balance if the answer is no. And if the answer is no, simply ask yourself, well, do I feel more like spinning, like nervous, anxious, worried? Do I feel more frustrated? Do I feel more heavy, lethargic? And just deal with the first thing first. Chances are more than one thing is out of balance. And you've just got to deal with what's in front of you. I'll give you some ideas here. And please know that it is very complex. And I'm simply giving you the gist of it here. I just want to give you the gist of it. I know it's complex, but I also know that if you do some of these very basic, simple things in your life, it will begin to bring you back into balance. So if you figure out for yourself that Vata is out of balance, that you've got some of the spinning, worried, anxious, fearful, or you're constipated, or any of these things, you want to bring Vata back into balance. Now, because Vata is the fast-moving one, it is considered the king of doshas. So you treat Vata first. If you have multiple things going on, you want to treat Vata first and calm the mind. It's the most important thing. Calming the mind will help restore balance to Vata. So a regular practice of meditation is not a luxury. It's a necessity. You must calm your mind. I know it's the last thing you want to do. Here's the thing. When you're out of balance, the thing you crave will make it worse. So when Vata is out of balance, they crave more activities, more distractions, more caffeine, more spinning, more sugar. They'll crave either sugary foods that make them, they spike and drop, or they crave not eating. In other words, they skip meals. They just stay in constant motion. But what they crave will make them worse. Corollary to that rule, and I made this one up as well. This is not ancient Ayurveda. This is my knowing and living it. What you crave when you're out of balance will make it worse. And the very thing that will help you the most is the last thing you want to do. So when a person has that spinning, worried, anxious, fearful mind, and you say to them, what you need to do is sit still, be quiet, and do nothing, they just can hardly stand it. So that's probably the key, that's really what they need to do. So meditation. I would also let you know that Vata is most stimulated by sound. So for people with a lot of Vata, a meditation involving sound is generally the most profound and healing for them. A sound meditation could be you making the sound by chanting a mantra, or using the sound of singing bowls, crystal singing bowls, or Tibetan singing bowls, or even having a sound playing on a CD or on your iPod, sound, humming, vibrating with humming sound. So that will help a Vata person calm their mind. It also helps so much for someone with Vata to create regular habits. Remember, the gift of Vata is to be spontaneous and changeable. But the problem is when there's too much Vata, there's too much spontaneity. It's basically erratic. It's beyond spontaneous at this point. It's just completely erratic. So it helps them to put their keys in the same place. Get up at the same time. Go to bed at the same time. Eat breakfast at the same time. Same, same, same. The more sameness, the more saneness. So, regular habits. Quiet. Remember I said Vata is most stimulated by sound. So quiet. Notice if there's a lot of sound in your environment and do what you can to create quiet. Have quiet, including even just putting your fingers in your ears and just being quiet sometimes. Quiet. Vata needs more rest than any of the other doshas. So notice if you keep pushing yourself like Western culture gives you kudos for, you need to stop that. You need more rest. And you rest assured because Vata has that energy that goes in bursts. So if you give yourself proper rest, you're guaranteed to still be super productive. Because when you're fully rested, you are so creative and you'll have that big burst of energy and you'll get more done in 1 hour than other people can do in a day when you are fully rested. But when you're not fully rested, you're spinning your wheels and tiring yourself out. You need warmth. So remember, you tend to be cold. And so you want to eat the opposite. You want to eat the opposite of cold. You want to eat warmth. You want to eat warm and you want to eat steady, regular nourishment several times a day. So think about air and space. It's cold, it's dry, it's light. So you want to eat heavy, warm, unctuous, moist foods. Use ghee. Ghee, that's the best oiling for internal oiling is to eat ghee to help your body stay lubricated. It'll help you so much for Vata. So hope you that's just a little bit. There's so much more, but I wanted you to get the gist of it. You do the opposite of what's happening to bring yourself into balance. The opposite. So to restore balance for Pitta, you do the opposite of what's happening. And remember, Pitta has that strong, sharp intellect, good judgment, good critical thinking. Remember when they're out of balance, they become perfectionistic and it has to be a certain way and they know the right way. The truth is they do know the right way. Pitta mind really is the sharpest and it knows if there's a project to be done, it knows the best way to do that project. If you're driving somewhere, it knows the fastest route, the best way to get there. So that is a gift. The problem is when they go out of balance, it gets so strong, it drives them crazy and it drives everyone around them crazy, their need for things to be perfect. Therefore, the thing that will have probably the most impact, positive impact to bring Pitta back into balance, to let go of the need to have things go the way you think they should go. Now, this one sentence is a lifetime for most people. It's a lifetime practice. The more you practice it, the easier it'll be to balance Pitta. Just let go of the need to have things go the way you think they should go. Then easier things, cool off. Pitta's too hot. So literally cool off. If it's hot outside, don't go outside walking in the middle of the day in August in Texas. Choose another time to go walking. It'll irritate you to be out there. Stay cool, including foods. So remember, we crave what will make it worse when we're out of balance. We crave the thing that'll make it worse. So Pitta out of balance typically chooses, they want Mexican food with margaritas and salt around the rim. That salt's going to make them boil over. The alcohol will make them boil over. The hot, spicy food will make them boil over. So they need to cool off. They're the ones who need cooler things. You know, green smoothies are great, and salads and sandwiches and cool cucumbers and melons and just cooler foods. There's whole lists of foods you can find online, and I'm not trying to teach you everything, but the quality, the nature of the food cooling you off. You want to cool off. Cool off. Pitta needs timely meals. So remember, Pitta governs digestive fire. It's fire. So if they're the ones who really need pretty much 3 square meals a day. Their digestion is regular. They may need snacks, but more than that, they need timely meals. So you need to make sure, if you have dominant Pitta, that you are not going too long without eating, because that will instantly make you more irritated if you miss a meal. Absolutely, guaranteed. When Pitta is out of balance, do not engage in competitive activities, because your competition is high and it won't be pleasant. You'll be irritable when you compete. You need to practice being non-judgmental. This, again, like that first one, it's a lifetime practice. There's a difference between judgment and judgmental. So you want to keep the gift of good judgment. Yes, do notice something is off. This would be better here. That would be better there. That's judgment. But judgmental is when it becomes critical. And when it becomes critical, it becomes damaging. So the practice of not being judgmental. And it helps if you just don't stop comparing all the time. In a Pitta mind, there's constant comparison. So catch yourself when you're comparing and just let that go. Let yourself observe. Start practicing the gunas, the 20 gunas, which if you've studied with me, you have a list. You can look this up online if you have not studied with me. Guna, they're qualities. See if you can do the practice of naming things by their qualities. Oh, that's hot, that's sharp. Like, say if a person has an interaction with you that you want to judge, say, man, he's such a... can't think of anything that's not he's such a mean person. Well, that mean is judgmental. Instead of saying mean, you can say, wow, he uses really hot, sharp words. I feel those hot, sharp words. That's an observation. You will not have the same physical dis-ease when you are observing and naming qualities as you will when you judge and create criticism. Even criticism on other people, you'll feel it in your body. Observation, naming qualities, you'll feel still fine. You'll have an equilibrium. It's a practice. And the last thing for restoring balance to Pitta is that Pitta people actually need to structure unstructured time. They are so structured by nature, everything planned to the minute, that they have to actually plan to have a day where there's no plan, if you know what I mean. That will help a lot. Just do the opposite of what there's too much of. So finally, restoring balance to Kapha. Remember, this person is asleep in the break room somewhere with an empty bag of M&Ms. So what will help them the most, and what do they not want to do when they're out of balance, is get moving. Kapha, it tends to be kinesthetic learner. When their body gets moving, instantly the heaviness starts to lift. So Kapha needs to get moving. They need to get out and socialize. They need regular exercise. They need variety. So if you have a lot of Kapha in your nature and you feel yourself heavy and you have several projects you're working on, do not sit there and do one project for probably more than 30, 45 minutes. Because especially if it's sitting at a computer, for sure, you need to get up, set a timer, 30, 45 minutes max for sitting. Then you need to, bing, timer goes off, get up, move around, do something, and then come back. This is what I mean by variety. For someone with Kapha out of balance, when they start doing one thing for too long, their energy just goes down the drain. So they need to make a game of it. Say even if it's something like cleaning house, 30 minutes of doing one thing and then set yourself to do something else. Chop carrots for only 5 minutes. Stop that. Move it to something else. Do something else. Do something else. Make a game. Create movement. This is the opposite what you would say to someone who has Vata out of balance. Someone with Vata out of balance would love to do a little of this, little of that, little of this, keep moving, little of this. They would never get anything finished. Vata will start a million things and never finish. Kapha, on the other hand, needs to move it. Change. And they'll come back and finish. They may need to put structure and discipline, but there needs to be this variety. Notice that about yourself or anyone that you know who has Kapha out of balance. And here it comes. I've already talked about it with the empty bag of M&Ms. They need to reduce sweet, heavy foods, which includes wheat, and dairy products. So sugar, wheat, dairy are the top ones for Kapha out of balance. And it's the thing that they crave. I say they. I'm a Kapha dominant person, so it's what we crave when we're out of balance. And we know it about ourselves. It makes it worse right away. So we need to reduce those foods. And interestingly, cleaning out clutter also lifts that heaviness, the dullness, the cloudiness that overabundance of Kapha gives us. So you want to clean out clutter. And if someone is really out of balance Kapha, generally they can't even figure out, they're so stuck, they don't know where to start. My advice is call one of your Pitta friends. They've been dying to get their hands on your stuff. That has been driving them nuts to see how your car is all messy, or your office is messy, and they're good at it. And they love to be in charge. So you just have them come over, and they love to tell you what to do, and they'll just tell you what to do and what to throw away and where to put it. You just follow what they say. It'll be fun. It'll lift your spirits. It counts as moving. It counts as getting out and socializing. It counts as variety to have this Pitta person come over. It will help you instantly. So I hope this helps you see the restoring balance to when you go out of balance. The final word I would say here is that it's never just one thing, of course. Like dominoes, one dosha goes out of balance and knocks the others out of balance. And the simple way that I would say for you to pay attention is just notice what feels out of balance the most and deal with it. An example that's very common, Vata is the fastest moving, and we live in a culture that is out of balance Vata. Faster access to the internet, fast cash, fast, fast, fast. Everything's fast. So in a culture where everything's fast, Vata tends to go out of balance in pretty much everyone, even when they don't have dominant Vata nature. So Vata needs to be dealt with first. Calm the mind. Calm the mind. Anything that would be sensed as grounding, do that first. As you calm the mind, then you'll notice, is Pitta out of balance or Kapha out of balance? And do what's required there. So if Vata and Kapha are out of balance, I would say calm your mind and get moving. And usually eat more of a Kapha balancing. In other words, reduce sweet, heavy dairy foods. If Vata and Pitta are out of balance, it's also calming the mind and then cooling off where you can, but mostly releasing judgment and seeing if you can release structure. So it's a little bit difficult because Vata needs structure and Pitta needs less. So you're going to have to really pay attention which areas help bring you back. But you'll see how that works. And so that is the understanding of bringing all of these back into balance, one thing at a time. Let it be simple. Let yourself ask yourself the question, what does it feel like? And then do the opposite. So I hope this has been helpful to you in understanding yourself. There's so much more, and you'll see on my website always resources for making dishes, and resources for books, resources for courses, and I wish you all the best.